Okay, we discussed on the two data types in the last class, like integer data types and float data types. Today we're gonna discuss on character category data types. Okay, in character category, let me first initially tell you the importance of a character data type. How character data type has played an important role in Java. In C, when we what is a character? Character is nothing but a single alphabetic word, okay, like which you represent in a single quote, like A, or like calling as Z, or calling as or something anyway. Why a single character that you represent is called character. Okay, so earlier what happened is like the character that we store, we call it as char. Like how we store integer, instead of integer we use int, right? Same way for character we use a keyword called keyword is char. Okay, basically when we say we are storing a character, it occupies only one byte of one byte of memory. Okay, let us say I have a character here. These are the characters.
Character 2 bytes కదా?
Huh?
Okay. Character will occupy 2 bytes
2
or
bytes,
what?
yes.
What is
This,
this?
yeah, well, let me just say that. Okay, well, let us say these are the characters, and when we classify these characters, we call it with an char. We call it with an char, char, and normally character would either take one byte of data. Normally, if you say A, it would take only one byte. If you say V, it takes only one byte. Okay, the memory it takes is just one byte. Okay, it takes is one byte. Okay, basically when before Java, all used to use C and C++, right? So in C language and C++ language, they implemented their software such a way that C, the character data type only stores one byte. Okay, because C language stores the values as per the ASCII. ASCII means international language called English. Something like if you remember, when you save some file, you get the file format here. Let me show you. You say the file is in ASCII. One second, file format. You know this, right? File formats. You say not this. File type. Do you see any type?
No. Format is there.
Format. File format is PC and Mac. Okay. But normally when you save a file, you save it with UTF-8. You know normally there are many types where we say, okay, this is this type we coding languages. Okay, I am not sure how to say.
Okay.
Okay, see how they defined is like for the languages they told, okay, this is like how we define cages for weight, how we define something. We have a measurement units, right? For languages also they divide into many types. One is ASCII, other is Unicode, and these things. ASCII is but nothing but an English language. We normally whatever we write in an English is called an ASCII. Okay, ASCII, ASCII, International Normal Language. So when they developed C, the code in C was taken as English. So in English, integer is a normal English word, byte is a normal English word, float is a normal English word. So they thought anyway character would have be an English word. Why can't we give an ASCII value as one byte, because every English word is of one byte. But the problem where we saw is if someone is interested to write the code in Chinese, the word may be looking as a single, but it takes a lot of memory because it has a lot of arrow marks or something in that. So C doesn't support multi-language. But Java, because C was already implemented and they know this difficulty, so they defined my character would always take 2 bytes. Even though you write your code in 1 byte, you write it only it occupies 1 byte, but one more byte would be wasted. But because even though it is wasted, the use is like even Chinese can use Java language to write their code. Got it?
Yeah.
So that is the purpose why they came up with 2 bytes in when it comes to Java. So they used Java with a character called 2 bytes. See, that is the word. So Scala is also a language. We have many languages coming today. Whatever the difficulties they are facing in the earlier languages, they try to overcome that and they try to implement them. So for Java, the language we use Unicode. Unicode is a standard. Like
Mm-hmm.
it always stores with a 18 Unicode language always is supported 18 languages. Okay, 18
Okay.
languages. So so they went with the Unicode, which supports 18 languages, and the size of Unicode is like a size that it can is 2 power 16. Okay, 2 power 16.
Okay.
2 power 16. Okay, coming on to ask you. Okay, that is the main purpose why a character was taken as 2 bytes, even though we normally use for 1 byte. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. This is the importance of character. Character is always represented with single quotes, and which in Java, character always takes 2 bytes. Got it? Even though an English character takes 1 byte, one more byte would be wasted. Okay.
Okay.
That is the character data type. Okay, coming on to Boolean. Next data type is Boolean. Ah, okay, coming on to Boolean data type. In Boolean data type, what see you saw the difference between integer, float, and character. The Boolean data type is nothing but a logical values which stores logical values. Tell me a logical value which has where you say this is a logic like it is like true or false, 1 or 0, right? This is called as
Yeah.
Boolean. Boolean is nothing but either it has true or false. Got it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I forgot to tell you some important things at the starting of integers. Now I remember that the default value, the default value for integer, when you declare int x semicolon, the default value for x would be always 0.
Okay.
Okay, if you say integer x and if you execute your code, x would always in even though you don't declare the value. When you say
Mm-hmm.
here, see this example. Where is the example? Okay, if I say int x semicolon, okay, you are not initializing x with any value, right? Initializing x with
Yes.
value means if you are giving 3, then you say you created a variable of data type int and you initialized the value of x with 3. You initialized means you set the value for the x as 3. In this case, you say you have initialized the x. For example, if I say int y semicolon, in this case it means that you never initialized the value but you declared a variable. Okay,
Okay.
in this case if you really do, you can write the code even in this way, even you can write the code even in this way depending on your input. There would be some cases when you write a code, you say always my x would have initially when your code start your x will have 3. In that case you will initialize to 3. there would be some cases where your y value would never, you don't know what would be the y value, and from somewhere you get the y value and then you set it. Okay.
Okay.
In that
Okay.
case, you say int y. In these cases, when you say int y, the default value when the y variable gets created is always 0. Okay. Same way, the default value for float is always 0.0. Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
Same way, the default value for for character is nothing. Means there is nothing in that. If you say
Mhm.
char c, it is just nothing is there in that. Got it?
Yeah.
So I forgot to tell you this. So now coming on to Boolean type, Boolean always stores the values as true, small t, okay, small true, or false. You can't store one something in this. Either the Boolean value always should be either true or false. The declaration of Boolean is Boolean x is equal to true. No need of any double quotes. If you declare this in a double quote, it means a string. It's not a true or false. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
string is always with double quotes, character is always with single quotes, boolean with no other quotes, integer no with no quotes, float with no quotes. Either boolean will always have either true or false. The default value, if you are not declaring boolean, okay, this is small, okay, but because of this is in PowerPoint, we get it within caps. Boolean y semicolon. The default value here is, this means the default value of y is always false. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, when you say true or false, true represent one in for a machine. When you say false, it represents 0 for a machine language.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Okay.
So I told you what is Boolean and how what is and all, but I didn't tell you how much space a Boolean occupies, right?
Yeah.
Zero, 0 bytes. So even though you give true or false, it takes 0 bytes.
Okay.
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 Why you may ask me why Ravi, why it takes there is an option you can ask me, right? Why
Yeah.
Ravi, why it doesn't take any memory? Because we are giving some value to it. Okay, why it doesn't take memory space when we declare? Okay, the data type boolean was implemented by Sun Microsystems, was used with flip flop. Okay, they used one methodology called flip flop where it stores uh, okay, which uses flip flop where it stores flip flop is a mechanism where if you are a student of electronics or something, there is a mechanism called flip flop where they store the values as 1 0 and it never uses any memory. Okay.
Okay.
So we say boolean data types by default takes at any point of time when you declare a boolean, it always takes 0. Okay, 0 bytes. Okay, boolean data type takes 0 bytes. Okay. Okay. So the default value is always false for boolean. Okay. Uh, these are the data types. Okay. So in fundamental data types, we covered integer, float, character, and boolean. In integer, we have byte, short, int, long. In float, we have float and double. In character, we have only character, and boolean, we have a boolean. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask you a few questions. Uh, tell me all data types in float.
Float double
Okay. How many decimal points does double support?
up to more than 15.
Huh?
15.
No, it's you should remember the values. Okay, it's like 16. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
decimal points. It's nothing but 8. 8 into 2, 16.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So, that's fine. And what is the memory occupied by character in Java?
2 bytes.
Okay. What about Boolean?
8 bytes. Boolean.
Hmm?
Mm, 0.
Okay, 0. And what are the values for Boolean?
True and false.
Okay, what does true represent?
1.
False?
0.
Okay. See, this is what, if you go anywhere, in any language, true represents 1, false represents 0. You should remember. In programming language, everywhere, true is always 1 and float is always 0. Okay.
Okay.
So when you learn Java, this would be a base for every language. If you know Java or some other programming language, that language would be always a base for something. Okay. What is the size occupied in the memory when you create an integer?
Size 4 bytes.
4 bytes. Okay. What about long?
8 bytes.
Okay. What about byte?
1 bit.
Okay. 1 byte, not 1 bit. Okay.
1 byte.
Okay. Okay. So this is about uh, a Boolean data type. Now we come on to the concept called variables in Java. Okay. And one more thing that I need to tell you is like earlier when I started the course, I told you about fundamental data types, derived data types, and user-defined data types. Where fundamental data types, I explained you in detail what fundamental data types are those, but I never explained you about user-defined or derived data types, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't you ask me the question then?
You told that we won't use much more the program.
Not like that. See, when you say derived data types, string is always a derived data type.
Okay.
According to the definition of derived data types, what you say? You store many multiple values of same type. See, here you are storing string of multiple values in one variable, right?
Yeah.
Here you are storing multiple values of same type in C, integer. Integer values you are storing in C, right? So
Yes.
these string arrays, and these concepts comes under derived data types. So these are all collections. User programming defined data types are those you write the code and you manage your own data. Okay. User, you are the programmer. You think logically. You write your own code and store if you want those. Okay.
Okay.
So what Java did is like, okay, I am giving you the bricks and cement. You mix and start constructing the wall. Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
So fundamental data types are the bricks. Cement is your laptop and your knowledge. So you should start writing the code.
Mm-hmm.
That is the way how languages are always. So developers is what he thinks the thing and he architects the code. He uses the bricks that were given by the coding language, and he uses his cement and he starts building it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So it is just a classification how data types can be. Normally, fundamental, whatever normal scenarios you get it. Derived, if you want to group some fundamental, you get a derived. If you want to manipulate in different ways, in that case, you get user or programmer dependent data types. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So that is the reason derived data types. I told you these things will come in anyway in collections or somewhere as strings. I think your first program you saw a string of args, right?
Yeah.
String of means it's an array. String of means array of strings. Grouping array of strings is called an array of strings. So we call it a string of args. It can be represented either string of a or it can be represented with string a of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this anyway we can represent them. Anyway, syntax we will be going on learning when we do the coding. Okay, so that is the importance of data types. Now you know what data types we have in Java. Can you tell me all the data types in Java? I want the last total all the data types starting from byte to Boolean.
Okay. Byte, short, int,
Okay,
long, float, double,
okay,
character, boolean.
yes, that's it. You know how to write a class, you know how to write a method, you know how to store the data. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if I give you a program, I am sure you can write the program. If I teach you some more main basic syntax, how to write a code. Okay. So
okay, yeah,
when you say, I know the data types, you should know how you should write those data types. Even though I taught you how to write in all the places I showed you, int x, int y, I should more specifically tell you how we need to store this. So there comes the concepts called variables. Variables are nothing but a temporary place. Okay, a place where you define the name and assign those data types with their values. For example, if I say int x, x is a variable where you are defining 5 into it. So int is an integer data type, x is a variable where you are assigning a value a. So we're assigning value 5. Got it?
yeah,
Okay. So So in each and every programming language, data must be represented in the form of variables. Okay. Any language, you can't place the data in here and say, okay, I wrote 5 in my code. It means that 5 is there. You should define it into a variable and then use those variables. Okay. Hence, variables are treated as an building blocks uh, in any programming language. Until and unless you have variables, you cannot use those values, right?
yes,
Okay. So variables are very important. Okay.
okay,
Okay. What and in how can a variable be useful? The variables can be used in such a way that whenever you store the value into a variable, you can manipulate the value of a variable when you do all your manipulations. When you execute uh, when you execute the program, you can change the value of a variable as you wish. If I say x equal to 5, and in the next line of code, if I say x equal to x plus 1, what value you get in x? And if I say sys dot out dot println of x, what is the value you get in the output?
6 dot x 5 x
Yeah,
plus 1 6.
6. That is what. So variables are nothing but a building blocks for a programming language where you can manipulate the values in them when you execute a program. Got it?
Yeah,
Okay. So that is the reason, even though you know variable, I should explain you what variable is. So why we need to use variables. When you know
okay,
the data types, to store the value, you use what type of data, you say it as a data type, not to store that value into some temporary variable, we call them as an variables. Okay.
okay,
Now I will teach you the rules to write the variables, how you need to write the variables, and what are the rules to declare, what are the rules to write the variables. Okay. Always make sure that the first letter, let me just to put it in the points, the first letter of the variable, where variable means x, or I can say this is let me say x as a salary. Okay.
okay.
So the first letter of the variable means first letter should always be an alphabetic, should always be an alphabet. Okay.
Okay.
The length, next point is the length, maximum length. So if I say alphabet, you started writing salary, and some too much energetic programmer started writing variable as, for let us say he started writing variable as some, and he says 5. This is also variable, right? This is a complete
Yes.
variable. So
Yes.
we, so there should be a limitation how much size it should have. For that, Java has defined that your variable name should not exceed 32 characters.
Okay. Mhm.
Should not, the maximum length, okay, should not exceed, or you can say the length of cannot be, can be up to only length.
Maybe we can write like a float salary also, right? Float salary equal to
Huh?
5.2. We
Pardon?
can write float. We can write. Can we write float salary?
Yeah, you can write float salary. If you say, if you are, if your salary is in decimal points, then you go for float.
Or we can write double.
Double, yeah, you can write double. You
Or
understand?
else float X. No, float X or float Y, float cell. Anything we can write.
Yes, float X, float salary, float Ravi, float Shankar, float Giraffe, anything. Variables are only the
Okay.
place where you should know what it is. A temporary
Okay.
place. Why we write a meaningful variable is like when you write thousands of lines of code, and if I say it as a salary, you will understand. Oh, this variable stores salary. If I say it's Ravi, who is Ravi? You
Yeah.
got it?
Yes.
Yeah. So always, whenever in any programming language, whenever you try to write or write any code, declare a meaningful variables. Even like class name should be meaningful. What you are writing the class for. Method name should be meaningful. What that method is useful. Even variable should be meaningful. What that variable is. I will write one more variable like this: string name equal to Ravi Shankar. And I will write one more variable like this. Okay, what I will write string first name. It should not have spaces. Okay, first name equal to k. Got it? So if
Yeah.
you define your variables with meaningful way, it would be helpful for you. When you write
Yes.
long codes, it will, you will know what that variable is. Okay, you will start writing code at the top, you declare this variable, and you go at the down 1,000 lines and you use that variable. If you know what that variable is, it would be very easy for you to understand. If you say x, you don't know what x is at the top and what you are storing in x, and why you should use x there at the bottom.
Yes.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and one more, you should not, the length should be maximum of 32 bits. Okay, no special symbols are allowed. Okay,
Okay.
except underscore. Underscore can be used. Okay, you can say
Okay.
first underscore name. Got it?
Yeah.
And no keyword should be used. What are the keywords? When you say keywords in Java, the words that are already used by Sun Microsystems as in standard keys are called as a keywords. For suppose, if you see our code, here float is a keyword because float was already used by Java. Double is a keyword because double is already used. Int is a keyword, byte is a keyword. Even class, CLASS is a keyword. Even void is a keyword. String is a keyword. Public is a keyword. Static is a keyword.
Yeah.
System is a keyword. Out is a keyword. Println is a keyword. Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
So maximum, you should not use. the new keywords that are used by the Sun Microsystems. Okay, because it
Okay.
won't know what that is. If you use that keyword, it would not know whether it's an your variable or it's really a Sun Microsystem variable.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, is it sufficient for the day or
Your wish. Today I don't have any school or nothing.
okay?
If
Uh,
you have anything, you can
no
continue.
school, so you are free.
Yeah.
Okay, then Vishnu, what I gonna do is uh, I should leave for now. One
Okay.
second, I
No
will
problem.
stop the recording.